we were focusing on what the original view of Congress was at the time of the framing. And in order to understand that best, we looked to the prehistory of the Constitution, America's experience with Congresses in the form of the state Congresses that were formed during the Revolutionary period, the Continental Congresses that won the Revolution in effect, and at the Congress formed by the Articles of Confederation. We explored the limits of those governments, those frames of government, and then moved on to the constitutions, the Congress that was framed by the Constitution of 1789. And it was at this moment that an entirely new vision of a Congress came into being. A Congress that was a truly representative organ of government, that possessed the legislative power, but that could also serve as a check on other branches of government and thus protect political and individual liberty from usurpation. The Congress formulated under the Constitution of 1789 did this in two ways, and we explored those on the panel. One was through the system of representation that was ultimately changed somewhat under the 17th Amendment, wherein the states enjoyed equal representation in the Senate and the people enjoyed proportionate representation in the House. We also explored the scope of Congress's legislative power and the centrality of an assertive and robust approach to that legislative power in ensuring that government is vigorous and responsive and dynamic, able to change with the needs of the times. One of the recurring themes in the panel was the role of political parties in tinging the way that Congress does its job. We explored the role of political parties in shaping the way that Congress does its job. At the time of the framing, there were no political parties, though the framers did recognize that there were political factions, alignments among people on the basis of their interests. But the emergence of political parties in the late 1780s through the Jefferson-Adams rivalry, and ultimately which culminated in the Revolution of 1800, the first time in the United States, or for that matter in most any developed polity, there was a peaceful transfer of power from one adverse political party to another. All of this sort of political development began to tinge the way that the institutions framed in the Constitution of 1789 actually operate on a day-to-day basis. One way that occurs is through partisan filibusters. Another way that occurs is in limiting the availability of the impeachment power as a mechanism through which Congress can hold other public officials to account. But above all, I think what we focused on in that panel was the way that the past can inform both the present and the future for governance in the United States. Moreover, governance under the Constitution. So one of the themes that we elaborated on was the role of educating members of Congress on the historic function of the Congress and the rare trust that they possess as legislators in a system of separate and coordinate powers. This is just the first salvo in what I hope will be a really robust debate on the role of Congress.